The quantum ripples arrived first, subtle disturbances in the fabric of space-time that Earth's deep space monitoring stations initially dismissed as background noise. Dr. Elena Chen, however, saw the pattern. Standing before the holographic display at the Lunar Observatory, her dark eyes narrowed as she studied the increasingly regular fluctuations. "There's intelligence behind these signals," she muttered, fingers dancing across the haptic interface. After 15 years of searching for signs of extraterrestrial life, she had learned to trust her instincts. The ripples weren't random. They carried purpose, intent, and something else that made her skin crawl: superiority. The Vraxians revealed themselves 3 days later. Their ships emerged from quantum space in perfect geometric formations, crystalline vessels that seemed to bend light itself around their angular hulls. Earth's combined fleet, hastily assembled from all major spacefaring nations, looked primitive in comparison. First contact should have been humanity's greatest moment. Instead, it became their greatest miscalculation. Not humanity's, but the Vraxians'. High Commander Zixra of the Vraxian Collective stood on his command deck, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the ambient light as he studied the human vessels with what passed for amusement among his kind. "Such disorder," he commented to his subordinates. "Look how their ships lack uniformity, how their communications followed no logical pattern. They are barely better than animals." The Vraxians had spent millennia perfecting their civilization. Every action, every thought followed precise mathematical principles. Their technology evolved along carefully planned paths, each advancement building logically upon the last. They had encountered many species in their expansion across the galaxy, but none as chaotic as these humans. Their first diplomatic exchange was a disaster. The human delegation, led by Ambassador Sarah Patel, attempted to establish common ground through shared scientific understanding. But to the Vraxians, humanity's approach to science was heretical. Humans conducted multiple experiments simultaneously, allowed failure as a learning tool, and worst of all, encouraged individual innovation outside of established parameters. "Your species is a danger to the natural order," Zixra declared during the final meeting. "Your chaos threatens the very fabric of civilized space. We cannot allow such disorder to spread." The attack began at dawn, Earth Standard Time. Quantum beams sliced through Earth's orbital defenses with surgical precision. The Vraxians expected a quick victory, an efficient elimination of a potentially dangerous species. They had calculated every variable, planned for every logical response. But they had made a crucial error. They had assumed humans thought like them. As the first waves of attacks decimated Earth's outer colonies, something unexpected happened. Instead of surrendering or falling into disarray, humanity's response was unlike anything the Vraxians had encountered. Military vessels began using seemingly suicidal tactics that somehow worked. Civilian ships performed maneuvers that defied tactical logic but achieved impossible escapes. Dr. Chen, now working from a hidden facility beneath the Himalayan mountains, recognized what the Vraxians couldn't understand. "They think our diversity is weakness," she told the Emergency Council. "They see our different approaches, our varying solutions as proof of inferiority. But that's exactly why we'll survive." Around the world and across the colonies, humans began doing what they did best: adapting, innovating, and defying expectations. In underground bunkers and hidden research facilities, scientists from different disciplines started collaborating in ways that would have seemed absurd weeks earlier. Quantum physicists worked alongside biologists, military strategists consulted with artists, and artificial intelligence researchers partnered with environmental engineers. The Vraxians continued their systematic attack, following their carefully planned strategies. But with each passing day, their perfect calculations began showing discrepancies. Human survivors were disappearing from their sensors in ways that shouldn't be possible. Strange energy signatures appeared and vanished before they could be analyzed. Their perfectly ordered battle plans began encountering scenarios they couldn't explain. High Commander Zixra, watching the unusual patterns emerge, felt something alien to his species. doubt. "These humans," he remarked to his chief strategist, "they do not respond according to any known behavioral models." In the depths of the Himalayan facility, Dr. Chen smiled as she reviewed the latest data. The Vraxians had made a fundamental mistake in their assessment of humanity. They saw chaos where there was adaptation, weakness where there was versatility. And now, in their attempt to eliminate humanity, they had given humans something dangerous, a reason to push beyond their limits. "Send word to all surviving facilities," she instructed her team. "Operation Phoenix is now active. It's time to show the Vraxians why you should never back humans into a corner." The first phase of humanity's response was about to begin, and it would demonstrate why assuming humans were inferior might be the last mistake the Vraxians ever made. The Himalayan facility, designated Phoenix Nest, hummed with an energy that had nothing to do with its fusion reactors. 3 weeks after the initial Vraxian assault, the sprawling underground complex had become humanity's greatest think tank, not by design, but by desperate necessity. Dr. Maya Santos wiped sweat from her brow as she studied the holographic display floating above her workstation. As a specialist in adaptive materials, she had spent years trying to convince grant committees that her theories weren't impossible, just highly improbable. Now, with extinction looming, impossible had become a meaningless word. "The quantum field is stabilizing," she announced to the team gathered around her station. "The material is actually learning from each molecular reconstruction." Next to her, Colonel James Harper, a former Special Forces operator turned cybernetics expert, watched the readings with intense focus. His cybernetic eye, a prototype he'd been testing before the invasion, recorded every detail of the experiment. "It's not just learning," he said, his voice carrying a hint of excitement. "It's evolving." What they were witnessing shouldn't have been possible according to conventional physics. The new material, dubbed Prometheus mesh, could alter its molecular structure in response to both physical stimuli and conscious direction. It was neither purely mechanical nor purely biological. It was something entirely new. Dr. Chen entered the laboratory, accompanied by Dr. Yuki Tanaka, whose work in quantum computing had earned her both acclaim and skepticism from the scientific community. "Show me," Dr. Chen commanded, her eyes bright with anticipation. Maya initiated the demonstration. A small cube of Prometheus mesh sat in the testing chamber. As they watched, it transformed from solid to liquid to gas, and back again, all while maintaining its quantum coherence. But the real breakthrough came next. "Watch this," Maya said, her fingers dancing across the control interface. The cube split into dozens of smaller pieces, each one acting independently yet remaining quantumly entangled with the others. It can maintain unified consciousness across separated parts. Yuki's eyes widened. "Do you understand what this means?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've created something that can think collectively while acting individually, just like humanity," Dr. Chen finished. In another section of the facility, Dr. Victor Rossi's team was making equally impossible advances in quantum communication. Their new system didn't just transmit information, it transmitted possibilities. Multiple quantum states existing simultaneously, allowing for communication that could adapt and evolve mid-transmission. "The Vraxians won't be able to intercept these signals," Victor explained during the daily briefing. "They'll be looking for discrete data packets, but we're sending quantum probability clouds. To their sensors, it will look like random background noise." The breakthroughs weren't limited to just technology. Dr. Sarah Williams, a cognitive scientist, had been studying how human consciousness adapted to interface with the new technologies. "Our brains are actually rewiring themselves," she reported. "The neural plasticity we're observing is unprecedented. It's as if the threat of extinction has unlocked hidden potential in our minds." But perhaps the most surprising developments came from the youngest members of the facility. The children of the scientists and military personnel, rather than being sheltered from the work, became integral to it. Their minds, unencumbered by conventional scientific limitations, saw possibilities that the adults might have dismissed. 10-year-old Zara Patel, daughter of two quantum physicists, was the first to suggest using the Prometheus mesh as more than just a material. If it can think, she said during one of the children's brainstorming sessions, why can't it dream? And if it can dream, why can't it imagine new ways to be? Her question led to a fundamental shift in how they approached their research. They stopped trying to direct the material's evolution and instead created conditions that allowed it to explore its own potential. The results were staggering. Deep in the facility's secure data center, Dr. Chen reviewed the progress reports with a growing sense of hope. The Vraxians had attacked Earth expecting to find a primitive, chaotic species. Instead, they had created the perfect conditions for humanity's next evolutionary leap. Send the encrypted quantum packets to all surviving research facilities, she instructed her team. It's time to coordinate our efforts. The Vraxians think they're hunting us. They're about to discover they've been incubating their own destruction. In orbiting Vraxian vessels, sensors detected unusual energy signatures from Earth's surface, but the patterns were so chaotic, so seemingly random, that they were dismissed as background radiation from the ongoing bombardment. High Commander Zixre, reviewing the latest intelligence reports, remained confident in their strategy of systematic elimination. But in bunkers and hidden facilities across the globe, humanity was becoming something new. They weren't just developing technology. They were merging with it, evolving with it, creating something that transcended the traditional boundaries between organic and artificial. The Vraxians had sought to impose order through destruction. Instead, they had created the perfect evolutionary pressure cooker. Humanity wasn't just surviving, it was transforming. And soon, very soon, the Vraxians would learn why challenging humanity's ability to adapt was the greatest mistake any species could make. 60 days into what historians would later call the Great Transformation, the Phoenix Nest's central laboratory had become something that defied traditional scientific classification. The sterile white walls now pulsed with living circuitry, veins of Prometheus mesh that seemed to breathe in sync with the facility's inhabitants. Colonel Harper stood in the center of the testing chamber, his cybernetic enhancements now fully integrated with the new biosynthetic systems. The Prometheus mesh had become part of him, flowing like liquid metal across his skin before settling into patterns that mimicked human musculature. Neural interface at 100%, Dr. Williams announced, monitoring his vital signs. Quantum coherence stable. Are you ready, James? Harper nodded, closing his organic eye while keeping his cybernetic one open. The chamber around him seemed to blur as his consciousness expanded through the Prometheus mesh network. He could feel every molecule of the material, could sense its potential, its hunger to evolve. Beginning Phase 1 transformation, he said, his voice resonating with harmonic undertones. The transformation began slowly at first, his body shifting, adapting, becoming something that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. One moment he was solid, the next translucent, then completely invisible before reappearing across the chamber. Dr. Chen watched from the observation deck, her tablet recording every impossible moment. The Vraxians wanted order, she murmured. We're giving them quantum chaos. In another section of the facility, Dr. Santos and her team had made another breakthrough. The Prometheus mesh wasn't just adapting to human biology, it was enhancing it. Human cells exposed to the material began exhibiting unprecedented regenerative capabilities. Look at this, Maya called out, pointing to a microscopic display. The cellular structures are maintaining quantum entanglement even during mitosis. They're passing quantum information through biological reproduction. But it was Dr. Tanaka's quantum computing breakthrough that truly demonstrated how far humanity had evolved. Her new systems didn't use traditional qubits. They used what she called probability matrices, computational structures that existed in infinite quantum states simultaneously. Traditional computing is like playing chess, Yuki explained during an emergency council meeting. Each move follows set rules. What we've created is like playing every possible game of chess simultaneously, while inventing new pieces mid-game. The children of the facility, now numbering over 50, had become integral to understanding these new technologies. Their minds, still plastic and adaptable, interfaced with the Prometheus systems in ways the adults couldn't match. Young Zara had become something of a prodigy, her consciousness able to merge with the quantum networks with unprecedented ease. "The mesh doesn't just think," she explained to Dr. Chen one evening. "It dreams. And when we dream with it, we can shape reality." The Vraxians, meanwhile, continued their methodical assault on Earth's remaining surface installations. Their sensors detected increasing anomalies, energy signatures that appeared and disappeared without logical pattern, quantum fluctuations that seemed to violate the laws of physics. High Commander Zixra found himself spending more time studying these anomalies. Something about them troubled his perfectly ordered mind. The patterns weren't just chaotic. They seemed purposeful in their chaos, as if the very randomness was a form of communication he couldn't comprehend. "Increase the bombardment of all detected human installations," he ordered. "We must complete this cleansing before these anomalies spread." But in the depths of Phoenix Nest, humanity's evolution accelerated. The merger of human consciousness with quantum technology had created something unprecedented, a species that could adapt not just over generations, but moment by moment. Dr. Chen, reviewing the latest data from all surviving facilities worldwide, felt a surge of fierce pride. The Vraxians had sought to eliminate what they saw as a chaotic species. Instead, they had forced humanity to embrace that chaos, to harness it, to become something that transcended traditional definitions of life and intelligence. "Begin final integration protocols," she ordered. "It's time to show the Vraxians what true evolution looks like." Around the world, in hidden bunkers and secret facilities, humans merged with their creation. The Prometheus mesh became less a tool and more an extension of human consciousness. Traditional boundaries between organic and synthetic, between individual and collective, began to blur. The children led the way, their minds adapting to the new paradigm with remarkable speed. Under Zara's guidance, they learned to exist in multiple quantum states, to think in possibilities rather than certainties. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore," Dr. Chen told her team as they prepared for the next phase. "We're fighting for the right to become something new." The Vraxians wanted to impose their order on the galaxy. Instead, they're about to witness the birth of a species that thrives on infinite possibility. In orbit, Vraxian sensors began detecting something new, a quantum field that seemed to emanate from Earth's core itself. But by the time they realized what it meant, humanity's transformation would be complete. The real war was about to begin, and the Vraxians would learn that trying to contain human potential was like trying to hold back the tide with mathematics alone. The first sign that something had fundamentally changed came when an entire Vraxian battle fleet vanished near Saturn's rings. One moment, 20 crystalline warships maintained their perfect formation. The next, they simply ceased to exist. High Commander Zixra received the report with the first emotion he had ever experienced: fear. The ships hadn't been destroyed. There was no debris, no energy signature, no trace that they had ever existed. They had been transformed. On Earth, in the quantum-enhanced command center of Phoenix Nest, Colonel Harper interfaced with the facility's neural network. Through his enhanced consciousness, he could sense the converted Vraxian ships, now part of humanity's evolving quantum fleet. The vessels, like humanity itself, had been transformed by the Prometheus mesh into something that existed between states of reality. "Phase shift complete," he reported, his voice carrying harmonics that rippled through quantum space. "The ships and their crews are adapting to the mesh integration." Dr. Chen watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The Vraxian crew members, rather than being destroyed, were being introduced to something their ordered minds had never conceived: the freedom of chaos. "Show me their status," she commanded. The display shifted, revealing the transformed Vraxian ships. Their crystalline structures now flowed like liquid metal, geometric perfection replaced by organic complexity. The crews, their consciousness expanded by the Prometheus mesh, were experiencing reality beyond their rigid mathematical understanding. "They're beginning to understand," Zara commented from her quantum meditation pod. The young girl's consciousness now existed partially in normal space and partially in a quantum state, allowing her to perceive multiple realities simultaneously. Some of them are afraid, but others are awakening. The counterattack unfolded across the solar system in ways that defied traditional military strategy. Human vessels, now integrated with Prometheus technology, didn't just fight. They rewrote the laws of physics around them. They existed in multiple locations simultaneously, appeared and disappeared at will, and transformed enemy weapons into harmless light shows. Dr. Santos, monitoring the battle from her laboratory, watched as the Prometheus mesh demonstrated capabilities beyond even their wildest theories. "It's not just adapting anymore," she reported. "It's creating new laws of physics on the fly. The universe itself is becoming our ally." In orbit around Mars, a squad of transformed humans, led by Captain Sarah Martins, demonstrated the full potential of their evolution. As Vraxian weapons fire approached their position, the squad shifted into quantum probability states, letting the energy pass through infinite versions of themselves without causing harm. "They still think in terms of targeting something that exists in a fixed position," Martins commented, her thoughts transmitted instantly through the quantum network. "They haven't realized that we no longer exist in just one place or one moment." The Vraxian response was predictable. They attempted to analyze the human tactics to find patterns they could counter. But humanity's quantum evolution had made such analysis impossible. Every human action spawned infinite possibilities, each one as real as the last. High Commander Zixra watched his perfect military machine crumble before what his sensors told him was impossible. Ships transformed, crews vanished only to reappear changed, and the very fabric of space-time seemed to bend to human will. "What have they become?" he whispered, his crystalline form vibrating with unfamiliar emotions. The answer came in an unexpected form. Through the quantum network, Zara reached out to the Vraxian commander's consciousness. Her thoughts, backed by the full power of humanity's evolved potential, breached his ordered mind. "We've become what we always were," her voice echoed in his thoughts, "a species that turns chaos into possibility. You tried to impose order, but you taught us to embrace our true nature instead." Dr. Chen, monitoring the quantum communications, felt a surge of pride. The children, led by Zora, were showing the Vraxians a truth their rigid minds had never contemplated. That true evolution came not from perfect order, but from the endless dance between chaos and possibility. Across the solar system, more Vraxian ships encountered the transformed human forces. Some fought, their weapons useless against beings that could shift through quantum states at will. Others, their crews touched by the first tastes of quantum consciousness, began to question their fundamental beliefs about order and chaos. "We're not just winning a war," Dr. Chen told her team as reports of Vraxian conversions increased. "We're introducing them to a new way of existing. Their perfect order was a cage, and we're showing them what it means to be free." The battle for Earth had become something else entirely, not a fight for survival, but a revolution in consciousness that would reshape the understanding of life itself. Humanity, through its desperate evolution, had transcended the traditional boundaries of existence. And as the Vraxian fleet faced this unprecedented threat, they began to realize a fundamental truth. They hadn't come to impose order on chaos. They had come to witness the birth of something that would forever change the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. The final confrontation between humanity and the Vraxian collective didn't take place on any battlefield. It happened in a realm beyond physical space, in the quantum layers of reality where thought and existence intertwined. High Commander Zixra's flagship hung in Earth orbit, its crystalline structure reflecting the pale blue planet below. Inside his command chamber, The commander faced a decision that would reshape galactic civilization. Before him stood not armies or weapons, but a small human girl whose existence defied everything his species believed possible. Zara Patel, her form shimming with quantum possibilities, reached out her hand. Through the Prometheus mesh network, every transformed human could sense this moment, this pivot point in history. Dr. Chen, Colonel Harper, and billions of others held their collective breath across quantum space. "Your order isn't wrong," Zara said, her voice carrying the wisdom of humanity's collective evolution. "It's just incomplete. Like a crystal that's forgotten it was once stardust." The Vraxian commander studied the child before him, his crystalline consciousness encountering something it had never experienced: infinite possibility within perfect order. Through the quantum link Zora had established, he began to understand what his species had missed in their pursuit of perfection. "We sought to eliminate chaos," Sixra said, his thoughts resonating through quantum space. "But you've shown us that chaos and order are not opponents. They are partners in the dance of existence." In the quantum realm, human and Vraxian consciousness began to merge and understand each other. The rigid crystalline structures of Vraxian thought didn't shatter. They grew, sprouting new facets and dimensions. Similarly, human chaos didn't diminish. It found new patterns, new ways to create order from possibility. Dr. Chen, interfacing through the quantum network from Phoenix Nest, witnessed the transformation spreading through the Vraxian fleet. Their ships, once monuments to unchanging geometry, began to flow with new life. The Prometheus mesh didn't just convert their technology. It awakened possibilities that had always existed within it. "They're evolving," Dr. Santos observed, watching through quantum-enhanced sensors as Vraxian crystalline technology began to pulse with organic patterns, not being destroyed or replaced, but becoming something more. The children of both species led the way. Young Vraxians, their minds less rigidly set in mathematical certainties, embraced the quantum consciousness with surprising ease. They began teaching their elders how to exist in multiple states, how to think in possibilities while maintaining their love of order. Across Earth's surface, the signs of war began to transform. Destruction became creation as Prometheus enhanced humans and awakened Vraxians worked together. Their combined technology didn't rebuild, it reimagined. Cities rose that existed in multiple quantum states, structures that were both precisely ordered and infinitely variable. "We thought we were fighting for survival," Colonel Harper said, watching as a destroyed military base transformed into a quantum engineering school where human and Vraxian children would learn together. "Instead, we were evolving toward cooperation." High Commander Zixra, his consciousness now expanded beyond his original understanding, made a formal declaration to the galaxy. The Vraxian collective would no longer seek to impose order. Instead, they would help species discover their own balance between chaos and structure. Dr. Chen stood with Zora in the transformed Phoenix Nest, now a gleaming quantum research center where the boundaries between organic and synthetic, order and chaos, possibility and reality blurred and reformed endlessly. "What happens now?" Zara asked, her quantum-enhanced consciousness perceiving multiple possible futures. "Now," Dr. Chen replied, watching as human and Vraxian scientists work together at stations that defied traditional physics, "we explore what we can become together." The galaxy thought we were opposites: order and chaos, crystal and fluid, certainty and possibility. Instead, we're teaching each other that true evolution needs both. The Great Transformation, as it came to be known, spread across the galaxy. Other species, watching the merger of human adaptability with Vraxian precision, began to explore their own potential for evolution. The rigid categories that had divided galactic civilization began to blur and transform. And in quantum space, where consciousness and reality danced together, humanity had learned its greatest lesson. The most powerful force in the universe wasn't order or chaos, but the infinite possibilities that emerged when both worked together. The children of Earth and Vraxi would grow up in a galaxy where transformation wasn't just possible, It was the natural state of existence. They would inherit a civilization that had learned to thrive not by imposing order or embracing chaos, but by discovering the endless potential that lay between. For in the end, the Vraxians had been right about one thing: humanity was dangerous. Not because they were chaotic, but because they could show the galaxy that evolution never truly ends. The future belonged not to those who could impose their will upon reality, but to those who could imagine new ways for reality to exist.